like things were very unclear for me about a year and a half ago or so. Unclear of where I wanted to go content wise, unclear with my coaching business. Like things were just very unclear, just completely, just no clarity at all. And I just find that the more clarity you can have in life, like it's easier to build momentum forward when you have a clear path of where you're going.
It's Johnny Late Night! And now here's your host, Johnny Rogers! Welcome back, everyone, to episode number 78 of the Johnny Rogers Show. As always, I'm your host, Johnny Rogers, but you knew that from the podcast that you clicked on. But first, before I get into my guest today, I have to tell you about the greatest website of all time. It's called patreon.com. And if you go there, you can get these episodes ad-free, exclusive, and before anyone else. It's well worth it. I set it to like $1 a month so that everyone can afford it because I just want my content to be accessible and for the hardcore fans so that they can get it before anyone else. I feel like there's a cool badge of honor with that. Stand-up comedy dates if you are in the Ottawa area, which I don't know how many of you are, but if you are, please come out to these shows. April 1st, so tomorrow when this podcast comes out, I'm in Cornwall. You can DM me about that one. I'm also going to be at Yuck Yucks April 5th, Laugh Lounge on April 9th, and Starling, Ottawa on April 19th, which is called Comedy Cocktail. But head over to my Instagram and you can get all the information there, or DM me. I'm very, very accessible human being on the internet until I hit the stardom of my guests where you just can't even respond to all the requests that are coming in. I was very pleased to see that this guy is absolutely taking off with his content journey, and I'm super excited to talk to him today because it's been a long time since we had a little podcast. But without any further delay, please welcome my friend and yours, Colin Cummings. What's up, man? Welcome to the show.
How you doing? How you doing, man?
Not too bad, not too bad. This is going to be the second podcast where I'm trying out a new format. We can't see it on here, but for the guests watching, it's this cool kind of new news format looking thing. I stole it from Dr. Drew, if I'm being honest. I don't know if you
Really?
watched
What
Dr.
is,
Drew's show. He has this
is
really
it like?
cool like banner guest on the side. There's like a lower third down here that'll have like all of your information kind of rotating through so people at any point can know who they're watching, which I just love that part of it.
Wow, that's
Big
actually great.
things, big things happen in the
So,
Johnny Rogers Show.
so are we both on the screen at the same time?
Yeah, we're both on the screen at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
was watching your show and I was like, he should have both people on at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same
So I
time.
just switched that with the last episode. I just switched that. So when you go into maybe more tangents about stuff, you'll maximize in the screen so that people can get a full idea of your background. Because sometimes people have cool backgrounds like you do right there, and I want to be able to show that off, but you don't really get it on the side by side that much.
Man,
But
I'm telling you. Oh,
I'll,
go ahead. Sorry.
I'm gonna shout out because we have a always in podcasts people forget that there's a high drop off right in the beginning. So if people are watching, make sure you go check out Colin on YouTube. It's I am Coach Colin or at Coach Colin, and I am Coach Colin on Instagram. You can look up his stuff while we're chatting here as well. Give that little shout out there for you. But
Wow.
yeah, man, it's been so long. We're starting on the word clarity. Why don't you start with kind of what made you arrive at the word clarity, what that means to you, and how it impacts, your daily.
Clarity is something that I constantly ask for of myself. I'm constantly trying to, like, things were very unclear for me about a year and a half ago or so. Unclear of where I wanted to go content wise, unclear with my coaching business. Like things were just very unclear, just completely, just no clarity at all. And I just find that the more clarity you can have in life, like it's easier to build momentum forward when you have a clear path of where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
A
it's like
thousand percent.
clarity, it's almost like clarity is the precursor to momentum. You know,
Yeah.
you need to see where you're running before you start running. You don't need to know how you're going to get there. You don't need to know what's at the end of it, but you need to at least see the first pad of sidewalk in front of you so you can start running, you know?
Yeah. Now, walk me through the process of, maybe something that could be a habit change, or it could be a routine change, or a way that you structure your day so that you do have kind of better clarity with I'm assuming the things that you want to get done, or the goals that you have, the clarity in those areas, because I know that there was for sure that moment, and I'd love to hear about it too, where you realize that the issue was clarity. There's some people, like, I'm always very impressed by people who have self-awareness, because
Mm.
it's not a common thing. There's a lot of people who just kind of continuously live the same life and go through the same patterns without even recognizing that there could be a change, or that what they're doing might not be the best way to do what they're doing. So how did that unfold for you?
I would say getting sober, definitely. Getting sober was a huge thing. I had that self awareness to know, like, being high all the time was like, it was making this like mist over my life of things, like what I could do and what was possible for me. So definitely getting sober was the first thing. Just for me, relationship with God really helped a lot. And also also coaching. Like I am a coach myself, but I also have a coach, and coaching was a huge, yeah, I guess you could call it a habit change. I guess you could call it a routine change as well. Just having that accountability and having somebody really questioning what I was doing and why I was doing it, and like meeting up and talking about that all the time really helped. I mean, it's different than a friend because we all have friends that we kind of do that with. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're actually like paying for this person and you're sitting in front of them, it's like a whole different ball game. Like you really feel like you have to do the things that you say you're going to do. And just beyond that, I would say just consistency. All of that had to do with consistency. Consistent days not getting high, consistent days holding myself accountable with my coach, consistent days just and where we're at now, consistent days just making content. Like
Mm.
that was the biggest thing.
Yeah. And I love too the type of content you're making. Is I can tell that it's coming from a place of genuine interest and curiosity, which I like to see, because for me at least, I've always had that issue of what type of content that I want to do, because I know what works on YouTube, let's say, but I don't necessarily want to follow what I know works, or what I know that I'm good at. Like, people like seeing me do those shorter, here's what happened in the news, and you can kind of get it in like 2 minutes, like these little bite-size
Mm-hmm.
entertainment news things. And I do, reasonably well, at least on my YouTube page. But it's like even the YouTube algorithm is like telling me to be more consistent with what it is that I like doing, because if you try to do too many different things on your YouTube page, it doesn't know where to sort you. It
Yeah.
doesn't know what audience to feed you to. But with your content and stuff that you're doing, they're like, oh, this audience here,
Mm-hmm.
let's send him that way. And then when you start getting views and you get monetized and you reach those heights, did that provide more clarity for you in terms of like the type of content that you want to make, or did it make it more difficult? Or are you kind of like saying, I don't want to be stuck in a lane? Like, how do you view
Uh,
success with clarity, I guess?
a little bit of both. I mean, like towards what you're saying, like you don't want to do what you're good at, or what YouTube thinks works for you the most. You know, like I'm in that boat as well, but I'm also in the boat of definitely do what works. Like I definitely look at the videos that I make, and just like when I began the whole consistency thing of content, when I hit one video, when I was at like 168 subscribers, when I hit one video that was like over 1,000, I was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna try that again. Because
Yeah.
like if you did it in the first place, it means that you like it somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
And like we were talking about when we were talking off camera, we were talking about the goal of like hopefully being able to have content creation like be a main source of income. Like you got to kind of look at it like, if I can get to that goal, there will be more of me being able to not be stuck in a lane. There'll be more of me being able to branch out and do other things that I really like to do. Um, so I kind of roll with that. So when I saw that first 1,000 view, like 24, or it was like a 1,500 view video, I was like, I'm just gonna do another one. And then it did the same thing. And I was like, okay. I'm like, I did the titling right. I didn't do anything with the thumbnail, which you have to do, but I saw something was happening. So I'm like, let me concentrate on that. Let me try, because this is like a world issue, world issue,
Hmm.
Liver King, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of world issue.
Current issue.
Um, but I was like, let me try different things around like culture, and like, let's see what really pops off, like what makes sense. And then, I was an Uber Eats driver, and I was always driving around listening to Joe Rogan. And then I was like, what happens if I just do a bunch of those clips and like comment on it and just talk about like my experience, kind of like what you were talking about doing, but just let's see what happens. And then that started to hit, and that started to make sense, and then like 168 turned to 1,000. And then the next week after that, it was like 2,000. And then I think the next week after that, it was like 10,000, and then like 20,000. And then I got that video that had 1 million views with Jordan Peterson. And then that kind of told me something. It was like Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, World Economic Forum. I'm like, okay. I'm like, so what do I really like? I'm like, well, Jordan Peterson all the time would be kind of dry of a life. I don't really
Yeah.
want to just focus on
Yeah,
Jordan.
yeah.
Joe's fun.
Unpacking that.
Yeah, right. So Joe's really fun because it's Joe Rogan. He's the best. And then World Economic Forum, I didn't really know much about. And then I started kind of going there. So I do what works, but I also go where my interests are. It's like a
Yeah,
little
I think that's
combination of
important.
both. Because
Yeah.
you don't want to give into the starving artist mentality of like, I don't care if I only get 5 views and this and that. Like I was there for like 9 years. Like you check when my channel started. It started in
Yeah.
2014, right?
Yeah.
And it's only in the last 3 months that I've done anything, and it's only because I've just been following, my interests, but also what's been working. So,
I
and
want to touch on that also too. I'll let you continue. I'll circle back.
I was
No,
just
no,
gonna
continue.
say, and a lot of listening to Mr. Beast, like this, listening
Yeah,
to what Mr.
yeah.
Beast has to say.
Definitely leaning on. I've actually found Twitter to be a really good resource for just YouTube, even specific like optimizations, or there's tons of like YouTube consultants that are on Twitter that just give free kind of advice, or they'll say like, I did a deep dive on 100 thumbnails, here's what I found in common. And you're just kind of getting this, free knowledge. I mean, their end goal is to sell you a course or something, right? But I mean, take what you can get and then try to apply it. But they're going back to what you were saying about, 9 years of video creation, starving artist mentality of just like put it out, put it out, put it out. There is like that element of like just straight believing in yourself. And
Mhm.
because this always sticks out to me, I believe it was you where I even hopped in like the comment section because I think somebody was like giving you shit for liking one of your own posts. And I said, like, if you don't like, and I commented and I like kind of hit back at them because they were like, oh, what are you doing liking your own post? And I was like, if you don't like your own stuff, how do you expect anyone else to like it? I was like, I was like, he's making me want to go back and like all my own posts. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'll
you
never
got to get
forget
the
that.
ball rolling. You got to get the ball
Yeah.
rolling. I remember you did that. Thank you so much for doing that, because that person was being a jerk, and it was over a really high schoolish type of reason. So yeah, thank you for that. It helped a
Fuck
lot.
it.
It actually extinguished them. They calmed down after. I was like, wow, Johnny saved me with all his power and clout.
No power, no cloud. I just stopped giving a fuck. There's so many things. I tell me if this happens to you too, but I found this recently happened to me with a couple things. And I don't know if it's like it's those creeping thoughts, right? Those creeping thoughts of, does anyone like this content that I'm putting out, right? You
Mhm.
you can shut that thought down as much as you want to shut it down. But there's been like people I know or people that I've worked with where I've either seen them make a sketch about something, or I've seen them, and maybe this is like a narcissism quality within myself, right? Where everyone thinks, oh, everything's about me, everything that they say, right? But it's like sometimes you can see a critique from someone that you're like, are they talking about me? You know what I mean? Like, is this sketch like? And it's not impossible that that's what's happening, right? So
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
always try to look at it like, oh damn, like that sucks that I thought this person was cool and it seems like they're making fun of the content that I put out right now, because I've gone through so many shifts. I understand that if you're looking at Johnny Rogers as an outside perspective, you're like, what does this guy do? He was on these nerdy YouTube channels. He like did music for a bit during the pandemic. Now he's doing podcasting post pandemic, which, you know what I mean? Like, I'm an odd figure to kind of put your finger on. At the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, I always just take it as like, one, they're probably not talking about you. It's probably just you're very I'm a basic bitch, I'll say that. I'm doing things that a lot of people are doing, you know, and I fit myself into a lane that they're just making fun of that lane of person. But I'm
Yeah.
taking it so personally. But then at the other side of it, it's like, even if it was there to make fun of me, I'm like, I guess that's a compliment, right? Because you're not going to get everybody on your side. Like, I've got my hardcore people who love, you know, anything I put out, and I'm always grateful for them. But I mean, you need those people also kind of like in your comment section, just shit talking you so that you can be like, man, I'm gonna fucking prove this guy wrong. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that little drive. Nobody likes to talk about that drive, but nothing has made me want to succeed more than in comedy than people who said that I shouldn't do comedy.
Oh yeah.
There's
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
drive
Oh,
behind that
oh,
nobody talks
oh.
about.
100%. Yeah, yeah. People don't want to reveal that. I have that. I remember one guy was talking to me, and he's like, "You don't even have 100 followers on Instagram." You saw he had like 12,000. And as soon as I hit 30,000, I was like, I hope he sees it. I hope he sees it. I hope
Yeah,
he
right. You're
understands.
like,
I hope he understands it's on YouTube and it means something different. I hope he knows I'm making money now. I hope he realizes that. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I have that.
uh,
Yeah, heavily, heavily.
I got
And
that
I
a
don't
bit with the
I
Netflix
was gonna,
like
I was gonna say I don't
debacle.
hide it.
You don't hide it? That's good.
Yeah,
That's
no,
good
no,
that you
I
don't
don't hide
hide
it.
it. I opened my video with like, "What's up, you fucking haters?" I mean, it's good not to focus on it forever, but like, I have that thought in my head that makes me laugh every now and again with this fucking Netflix shitty documentary that like took a piece of my video and put it in the documentary, and I'm like, that's cool. I guess I'm, you know, on Netflix. That's cool. Didn't get credited, didn't get paid for it, but you know, my face is on Netflix. That's pretty cool. But the thought that I keep having is like, somewhere out there, there's an enemy of mine, someone who despises me. I live in their head rent free. You know what I mean? They don't like anything I do. And they're going to just try to relax, put away their phone and turn on Netflix and hear my faces again. And that thought alone was just making me laugh. I
uh,
was just like, man, that's what I love about this business is like, you can do cool shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, nobody else is getting an opportunity unless you're putting out the content consistently, which, I'm going to circle back to a question here. I know I rant a lot on my own podcast, but
of course.
um, when you found your lane on YouTube and you found the stuff that was working for you, was it also combined? We're going to get super YouTube technical, but was it also combined with like a regular posting schedule? Like, are you like posting every single day, or did you find like a good routine for yourself where you can kind of structure your day where it makes sense? Because a lot of people will
Uh,
max themselves out trying to keep up with the content wheel.
yeah, yeah. I find my advice to anybody that's making content and is always try to make it every day, right? But you don't want to try and make like a full scale film every day. You don't want to try and make a short film every day. You don't want to try and make a documentary every day. But if there's something that you do daily and you do it with ease and you do it with joy and you could somehow film that and put it out there, it's like do that every day. Like when I told you about like when I was watching or listening to podcasts all day, I would literally do Uber Eats for 12 hours a day. I would come home, I'd go to sleep, I'd wake up, and all the podcasts that I listened to, I had timestamps on all of it. And I would just do clip after clip after clip.
Mm.
And then the alarm would go off. I have to hit the road again to do Uber Eats. And I just keep doing that. It was like a cycle. So I do try to do it every day, but it's easier when it's something that you enjoy. Like I enjoy listening to podcasts. That's going to happen no matter what I'm doing in my day. I'm always going to
Mm-hmm.
listen to a 3 hour podcast, which sounds crazy, but that's what I do.
That's what I do all day, dude.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
I
I just
love
love it.
so many. What like Joe Rogan experience, we've determined that already, but what are some other podcasts that you listen to that you like recommend that people check out that have just got you kind of hooked?
What other podcasts do I listen to?
Nothing more meta than recommending podcasts on a podcast, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm just
I
curious.
definitely I've given Cam Haynes' podcast a try. I like some of the guests that he has on. I like where he's going with his stuff. A lot of people are saying he's getting shadow banned because he's talking about a lot of, I
Mm.
guess, right leaning conservative type of values, type of things. But that's just who he is, so it's cool. Other than that, yeah, I would say it's mostly Joe in terms of podcasts I listen to. Uh, there's other ones, like, I guess you could say, like, it's not an everyday thing though. It's like there's somebody, very obscure podcast. Her name is Jolie, like on Instagram, she's Jolie Artist. So
Okay.
she just has this really weird podcast. She's a super intelligent girl, and she talks about things like, you know, are our dream lives like real life or another dimension? Like, she just talks about these
That's cool.
really
I
weird
love shit like
metaphysical
that.
stuff. So I love listening to that. And then other than that, honestly, it's just me making content. Like, I try to, and then other than podcasts, I'm listening to a lot of different videos. Oh, there's another one. I guess for anybody part of the urban community, hip hop community, there's a podcast called Back on Fig, where it's just like I'm listening to like high, like documentaries and government stuff all day, and then to unplug, I'll listen to just, it's just like a bunch of black dudes, and they're just all just talking and screaming at each other, and they're having
uh,
such a great time. They're all friends, and I just love listening to that podcast. Back on Fig, and something called Community, another podcast. These guys just yell at each other. They stream and yell at each other, and those are like, I like to just have that balance of like just strong government, all sorts of world ending apocalyptic type of
yeah,
talk, and then
yeah.
all of a sudden it's just,
Yeah,
chilling.
that's like me. I'll listen to like Jimmy Dore, which Jimmy Dore has his, he has like comedy sketches and people that come in and do voices, which I find hilarious, like the phone calls that he does with like different celebrities. Um, but to kind of balance that like heavy political, podcasting, I always
Yeah.
love going to, I don't know if you ever heard of Rick Glassman, but he has a great podcast called Take Your Shoes Off. And there's
Okay.
just something just so silly about it. Like
Oh yes, I have
the
heard of this.
oh man,
Yes.
it's so good. And he's interviewed like Bill Burr, Harry Mack, like a bunch of like really cool people to hear the conversations. And what's even more entertaining is hearing these people interact for the first time with Rick, because Rick is such a particular person. He has such a
He
particular
has
sense of
OCD, no?
humor. Yeah, OCD. I think he's a
Yeah.
bit on the autism like kind of
Mhm.
spectrum.
Yes, yes, yes.
But like the editing is just unreal. Even listening to it, because I mostly just listen to podcasts. I don't really watch them. And they'll be mid conversation, and he'll just be like, "Cut to a clip." And it'll either cut back to a clip from a previous episode where they sort of talked about the same thing that they're talking about now, or a
Yep.
stand up clip from that person. Like I love the kind of ADHD to it where it's just bouncing off the walls on
Yeah.
podcasts. I just love hearing people kind of continue to evolve in this realm, right?
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
podcasting and whatnot. Do you I know you run a coaching business as well as doing the YouTube channel. Do you see like a way that are you planning at least on melding kind of those things into content, or are you keeping the content on your YouTube channel specific to the
That
podcast review?
that's how it started. It started in, like, I wanted to get consistent, and I was just making coaching content. Like, if you look back like 3 months ago, I'm doing content on like habit formation and,
Hmm.
like, how to build a habit, how to make a habit stick, like just different things like that. And again, it was like, it was fun for me to do that. I liked it. I decided to start viewing culture, like looking at like the culture of everything. And the Liver King episode was me talking from a high performance coach perspective.
Hmm.
So I was
Okay.
like, what emotionally is this guy going through that he felt like he had to do this? He lost his integrity. Like, I was touching on it from that aspect of things. And then it kind of just started to morph and change. So I definitely don't fight it. So, like, where it's going now, like, the coaching business is still active. I still have a bunch of clients. I'm still, prospecting clients, getting clients here, there, whatever. But I don't feel a need to make the content more coachy, if
Hmm.
that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I just want to do what feels good. It's kind of odd that a lot of people in my comment section are always saying like good investigative journalism and good reporting.
Yeah,
Feels
yeah,
really
yeah.
weird to see that. I'm like, I don't know if
You're like,
that's
I'm just
me.
talking. Yeah, yeah. It's funny what
Yeah.
the labels that people will impose on you, and it can be very easy to just take that as like, I guess I'm an investigative journalist, the podcasting.
Yeah, right. Like I just did a piece on Tulsi Gabbard, and apparently she had ties to the World Economic Forum. She denounced them and said she had no idea why they ever had her on a website or anything. And I digged a little deeper, and I actually found that she must have known, and she made some tweets about it, and I uncovered like a
Damn,
thing that really
Twitter
shows,
is the
yeah,
skeletons in people's closet.
right. Like I went all the way back to her tweets in 2015. Like I went deep. And I found this tweet and I uncovered some stuff, and then I found her doing some Illuminati hand symbols, and yeah, I found
That's
a bunch of stuff.
speculation weird. That's why we
Yeah,
can't
and
call
then
ourselves journalists because you're like, I'm just speculating. I'm just looking.
well,
I'm
and
just a
then I
guy
went
on
to the
the
world.
internet.
Yeah, but then I went to the World Economic Forum website, and I was like, she was a young global leader, and where she had her picture in the website, you can't have your picture there unless you're a
Mm,
member and alumni. So for her to say that she just randomly had her picture there and she didn't know
hmm.
why doesn't actually make sense. And then plus there's a whole I look deep into this. There's a whole nomination process and an application that has to be filled out.
Yeah.
So I
I'm
kind of
curious about this World Economic Forum because I know nothing about it. So if you had
oh
to
really?
explain what the World Economic Forum is, what the problem is with it to a complete dummy, your dummy's
Mm.
guide to the World Economic Forum, how would you sum it up? Like it doesn't have to be short, but I mean,
Uh, I would say now I'm saying all this in respect to not getting you shadow banned on YouTube.
I feel like
I
I
would
already am.
say when you see you're not we can actually go over that. I've been noticing some things about your channel.
Okay. Yeah, let's dive
When
into it.
yeah, I would say that a lot of the apocalyptic narratives that are being put forward to the people stem from the WEF, and they have connection to every government in the world. And wherever you see people who are members, you hear apocalyptic doomsday type of scenarios put forth to the people. If
From those
I
people.
yeah. So it's getting linked to a bunch of things, but I won't say more. But there's carbon tracking, and their agenda is linked to that. There's digital IDs. Their agenda is linked to that. There is 15-minute cities. Their agenda is linked to that. So they just have a lot of links to things.
Jesus. Kind of like
Yeah,
BlackRock, right? Like it's like one of those
yeah.
things where you're just like, oh shit, that
Trudeau,
should be
Trudeau's in it.
wow.
Trudeau
And they
and the
probably
prime.
it
Yeah.
sounds nice though. You hear World Economic Forum, you think like, oh, it's just a bunch of world leaders getting together, trying to figure out how we can make more money. How do we make more of this thing that we invented?
Yeah. That's it.
It
That's
sounds
exactly
nice.
it. It does. It does. It sounds very nice. And I mean, arguably they have good intentions, but what it seems like it's all leading to doesn't seem like it's good for the regular person. It seems like it's better for the stakeholders, as Klaus Schwab puts it, the
Mm,
stakeholders of the world,
that
which
sounds scary.
in reality, we're the stakeholders. Like
Yeah.
regular people are, but they don't see it that way. So yeah, I'll say that much just to keep you kosher on YouTube.
Make my hair stand up on my it could be the FBI, but who knows. What
But
do
yeah,
you said you had metadata on my channel?
your channel. Again, I know you don't want to do things that like work, but it's like 2 months ago you put out a video about Andrew Tate, and just like the little bit of news there. Um, that did well. That got 2.4 2,400 views. That did really well. I think every time you see an uptick in views, it really is an indication of where you should be going. So maybe that's not the funnest stuff, but like that seems like because you're really good at it. Just to say, like when you see
Oh,
me do my
thank you.
videos, I'm doing like my third take, and I'm just like
I'm
if you
one
see me
take
off
Johnny.
camera, oh man, if you see my takes, I'm just like I'm getting so mad and I'm sweating and all sorts of
Dude,
stuff.
I've been there. I did it for 4 years of just
Yeah,
like standing in front of a teleprompter and like, and I didn't, the thing was, I learned under circumstances where I couldn't fuck up. If I
yeah,
fucked up and had to do another take, I lost that time slot to somebody else who's going to come in and film their video in one take. And
true.
so it just kind of like trained me to just, if I make a mistake, stop, pause, reread the lines, start again, where the editing makes sense to kind of cut it and pick it up. Because a lot of
Yes,
people will make a mistake, but then they'll keep talking to try to like get themselves back into the sentence. And I'm like, that's an editing nightmare. Like you're gonna have such a
yeah,
hard time trying to cut. You gotta pause, leave that dead space, and then come back in with like your second attempt at it, which will often
yes,
happen in those videos. Is like it seems like it's all together, but it's all editing. It's
true,
just cutting it
true.
together, cutting the right clips, cutting out stuff that I maybe fumbled over something. Like there was a whole part of a video that I got so mad at because I'm always trying to go for length. I'm like, how long can I make this video, but still keep the information concise? And there was a whole like 30-second chunk that I took out just because I mispronounced the guy's name and I didn't feel like doing another shoot. I was like, I'll just take that whole chunk out. I was like, it's not necessary to the story. Let's go into
Yeah,
it. And just,
yeah.
but making choices like that. But interestingly enough, and again, this is more YouTube inside stuff that I don't know if anyone cares to hear about, but if you do, thanks for listening. With the Andrew Tate video, it didn't do well at first. It had maybe 100 views on it. And so what I
Hmm.
did was I went back and I looked at my impressions, and my impressions were only at like 300, 400 people that it was getting shown
Hmm.
to. Not that many people at all, like very, very
Yeah,
low. So I changed the thumbnail. I had this very complex thumbnail. I changed it to a single image. I changed the title. And then right away, you just see the impressions go back up. And then my click through rate goes up. And then it added more views to it. And then it kind of plateaued. Once the news was
yeah,
no longer news, it's going to plateau regardless, right? That's the hard thing
yes,
about doing those videos is it's very like you got to put it out now when people are
yes,
searching for it. So it
yeah,
makes it a little bit harder, which I'm trying to find content that's like evergreen content.
yes, yes. Yeah, true, true. That makes a lot of sense. Because with my video that did the Jordan Peterson one I did that had it's at 1.1 million, maybe 1.2 now. That one, I did it right when it happened. Again, I was just doing Uber Eats. I heard something he said, and I realized something about Jordan Peterson. A lot of people like what he says, but they don't understand. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people understand what he just said because this should be like everywhere right now.
Yeah.
So I just immediately made this clip. And then 5 days later, he made the clip because he understood how big it was. So I actually beat everybody and I beat him.
Including
Like,
Jordan.
yeah. So I beat everybody to it. And that's why it got to like 1 million. And that was like everything. That got me like 15,000 subscribers. That was like
there's
nuts.
there's a note that it just popped in my head because I always forgot the name of it, but it just I remember pinning it up on my board here, and it says topical authority, publish more content around a smaller topic set. And that's exactly a great example of topical authority. When people are searching for the explanation of this thing or more details on this thing, you were the first one there. So you're
Yeah.
naturally going to get those views. Same thing happened with the Wiz Khalifa Yeah Yup video, which was like the biggest video on my channel. I was
Yeah.
listening to the Wiz Khalifa podcast, and as I'm going home from work, I'm like, this guy says yeah yup a lot. Like he said it a lot in this conversation. I was like, wouldn't it be hilarious to just cut together all the times? And then it, formed into, okay, let me cut it together, but let me count how many times he said it and put
Yeah.
that as the title and everything else. And then just boom, like 50K views in like 5 days. It was ridiculous checking my analytics. I was like
Yeah.
so excited. But then when Joe Rogan was still on YouTube, then it's like a copyright claim thing, which I want to
Yeah.
ask you about. Have you gotten a lot of like copyright strikes from doing a style of content where you are using someone else's piece of content and commentating on top of that, or is that falling under like a fair use sort of thing?
The thing about that is, I guess we are getting really meta about it. And then I'll go
Yeah,
back
I
to
don't
what
care. This is
I.
my podcast. We'll talk about whatever. You don't like it? Click to something
So-
else.
I guess and then I'll talk about like what I noticed on your channel after. But when it comes to my videos, I like my videos are thrown together, but they're not at the same time. Like I knew all about copyright claims that could come up. So I make sure, like if you look at my videos from the past 3 months, I'm always in them. So I'm either in the corner, right? Or it's like
Hmm.
now I have this style where I'm kind of like switching back and forth where it's the clip and then it's me. My logo's always in the corner. What that happened, what when you do that, it's now transformative content. They have
Mm.
no right whatsoever. Like if you ever look at my videos, even if it's Joe Rogan, it'll be like 2 minutes of Joe, maybe 3 minutes of Joe talking, and then it's like 6 minutes of me talking. At that point, he deserves no cut of whatever I'm making of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
I've had
yeah.
videos try to do it. Jocko Willink, his people tried to give me a copyright claim. I disputed it. I won that because again, it was more me. It was more me than him. It was like
Hmm.
2 minutes. It wasn't even him. It was Tim Kennedy. It was just like it didn't make any sense. And that's the only one I've gotten so far. Actually, there was a Joe Rogan one where I wasn't talking more than Joe, and then Joe actually has hired. Well, I shouldn't say, but it seems like either this company's just doing it or Joe's people had to have hired it. It's a company called Super Barn, and
Mm.
they'll try to step in and like claim stuff. So I just took that video down and just split it into 3 videos. And then those three
It's a
videos
whole
got like,
business.
yeah, definitely. And then those 3 videos actually all together got like 1.2 million views. So I was like happy
Wow.
about that. I was like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
glad,
Hell
I'm
yeah.
glad I cut it up. I've actually noticed that the censorship in a sense kind of helps because it like made me think more. It made me think better about what I was
Mm.
doing. It made
Hmm.
like the new style that I have that people seem to enjoy quite a bit that came because of copyright restrictions. Like the reason that you
Mm.
see so many things that I do now is because censorship was like at my door. And I was like, okay, I got to learn how to like duck and dodge this. Like one time I made a video, it was Kyle Kalinske and Joe Rogan talking, and Kyle Kalinske was just calling out like conspiracy theorists and but then at the same breath he was talking about like the Hunter Biden laptop story. And I was like, well, 9 months ago, that was a conspiracy theory. So like you're
Yeah,
talking about it like it's such
yeah,
common knowledge, but that was like, how are you, like maybe you should take those
yeah,
people a
yeah,
little more
yeah,
serious,
yeah.
maybe not call them like morons and stuff. And I said the word idiot like 3 times, and they actually tried to give me a strike. They're like, this is harassment and
It's
bullying.
bullying.
And yeah. And then I just wrote in, I'm like, I didn't say a slur. I didn't direct
Yeah,
anything I was saying at anybody. I was just saying idiot. Like I wasn't calling Kyle an idiot, wasn't calling anybody an idiot. I was just saying idiots in general. So that got taken off right away, and then they let me have the revenue from that. So yeah, copyright restrictions don't come at me all that much because I know how to
you know
navigate.
how to
I'm
deal
learning
with
how to
it.
navigate.
Yeah. I
But
think
I
the
was gonna
same thing
say
goes
to
for
your
comedy.
channel,
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
the same thing does go for comedy, but to your channel, I definitely did notice like when it comes to this show, I see like you put the numbers first, and you shouldn't do that. And then also let's just from years of me making podcasts and producing podcasts, like you don't need the number and you don't need the name of your show in your title at all because the algorithm doesn't care how many numbers of a show
Mm.
that you're at. It doesn't care as long as the topic's good and as long as the title's good, really. And it doesn't care about you yet. I'll say yet, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't know Johnny Rogers as much. It knows you a little bit, but not as much. So it's like if we talk about Jordan Peterson and the World Economic Forum and this matrix like algorithm thing is like looking at your video, it's true. It's going to uphold in the algorithm's eyes. So if you title it that, how Jordan Peterson and the World Economic Forum took this guy to 30,000 subscribers. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
something like that. The algorithm's going to look very kindly on that.
It's the
You
title.
know? Yeah, like if you start like titling things, like I noticed like focusing on the title,
Yeah.
like people love the content that I do, but I notice focusing on the thumbnail and focusing on the title has made worlds of a difference in how my content reaches people, like a
Hmm.
world of difference. I didn't think about it that much before. I used to do the whole thing of like whatever thumbnail comes up, who cares? But man, thinking of a proper thumbnail, nothing too complicated, like you brought up with the Andrew Tate one, but like
Hmm.
thinking of a proper one that's like eye catching and like using the right colors and titling it properly and using caps in at least one of the words, like it really
That's
helps. It
huge.
really
Yeah,
helps.
and there's and this is the content creator struggle, let's call it, because I have my own, whatever, like OCD about what my channel looks like, but that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily mean that that is the best practices. And it goes back to the self-awareness of being able to take feedback like that and then apply it without worrying about, like, for me, I was like, oh, I want to be able to count how many episodes I've done, or keep track of it in some way. But to
Put it
what
in the
you're
description.
saying, exactly. And there's other places for it. To what you're saying, title is just like, what is this video about? And then
Yeah.
there's also needs to be, I'm speaking broadly, but mostly from what I need to do, is focus on how the viewer is going to perceive it. How is the
Yes.
viewer going to read that title, and what is going to interest them to watch this? Well, if they just see Colin, maybe someone that they don't know,
Mm-hmm.
me, they don't know me. So it's like a guy they don't know is talking to a guy they don't know, and it's the 77th time or 78th time that he's done it. That's all.
Yeah.
That's the only information you've given them, and then you're like, why am I not getting any views? You're like, well,
Yeah.
maybe be more specific.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like you really should, because I
Yeah.
think it would help a lot. Like I noticed there's a lot of comedians like in our circle that I wanna help in that way, and I'm reaching out to them slowly. I just haven't had time. But it helps so much to do that, to just take that away and just forget about how you think it should look. Like literally put it in the description, make a playlist that's Johnny Rogers podcast playlist, and then you'll be able to see how many there are, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like everybody, like, and I've done it too, everybody wants to model like what Joe Rogan did when he was on YouTube, right? And the thing about it is, it's like, although Joe Rogan's always like, this whole thing happened organically, and it did. It's like he was on a TV show like that
He's
I
still
watched when I was a
famous.
kid.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
watched him
yeah.
when I was a kid on news radio, like, and
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
like the best character. I was like, wow, he's so cool. And then on top of that, it was like Fear Factor was like one of the epicenters of like it was like changing the way we looked at reality TV. It was like one of the first reality TV things.
Hmm.
So it was really organic, but the algorithm, even though we didn't know about how much the algorithm existed back then, it really knew him already. It was like, it's Joe Rogan. Like, I know Joe Rogan. Like, obviously, I know that name.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
associated with Phil Hartman. It's
Yeah.
associated with all these people. Like, so it
And I
happened
think that's where
organically
people fall
ish.
into that mistake, is modeling themselves after someone who's at a different level. I just had this clarity, to go back to that word, about my own stand up. About, for the last 12 years, I've been modeling my idea of how to do my stand up based on the greats, based on the people that I like watching. And it came to me that they are on a different level completely. But not only that, they did stuff to get there that they don't show. And that's the stuff that, me as a, pro am comic, whatever you want to call it, needs to be doing now. And the biggest thing is, I heard Andrew Schultz was talking to Bert Kreischer about this, was he said that early on in his stand-up days, he felt like he had to earn the right to talk about himself on stage, because who the fuck cares who he
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
and his life when he's on stage? And I was like, that's the mistake I've been making in stand up for so long. Was I thought, not I thought, but it's the easiest thing to do, is to just talk about yourself without thinking, again, from the viewer perspective, who the fuck cares about just this guy talking about his life that I don't know? You know what I mean? Like, it's so much better to give your unique opinion on things, or
Yeah.
try to debate a side of a subject that doesn't really get debated a lot. Whatever the topic structure that you want to go with. But that's been a lot of clarity for me, at least in terms of
For
stand
stand
up.
up,
Yeah.
that's like the bit about how you're very afraid of acid.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I found that funny. And then you're like, it's not like I see the other acid. You're like, obviously, I'm talking about the drug. I'm not talking about
Yeah,
acid.
yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's actually kind of funny. I was like, there's like a whole bit in that little thing.
Yeah, yeah, just
I
that
actually
moment.
watched that. I watched that set recently that you did, and Kevin Soldo is the one that brought you up when you were doing that.
Oh yeah,
I watched
yeah.
the set that you have online, and Kevin Soldo's bringing you up, and I was like, wow, that's so funny because I was just talking to him as I was like getting ready for this whole thing and like doing some other content stuff. So it was just funny. I'm like, oh, there's Kevin. I'm like, wow.
I
Love
love
Kevin.
Kevin.
So good.
I it was so funny. It was like I think it was maybe start of the pandemic or something, but like I was out with I was like on a date and I ran into Kevin and he thought that my date was like an ex that he had met. And so he was like, "Yeah, we," and I gave him like a and he went, "Nice to meet you." Like he just it was just like a look, like we just looked at each other and he stopped himself mid sentence and then it was such a good dude. Like he messages me right
That's
after, like,
so
"Oh my
funny.
God, I'm so sorry. I didn't," you know what I mean? Like he
That's
thought that he
so
had
funny.
completely fucked up. And I was like, "It's all good. It's all good, man. It's all good." I'm just
Wow.
such a funny Kevin Solo story. uh,
Yeah, man.
uh, no? Okay.
That's so funny. But yeah, back to content real quick. Just
Yeah.
you're so good at doing that type of stuff. I think if you like maybe if you were just like took like two stories a day or maybe even one story and just said this is the story and just did one of those a day and then did this podcast thing every week. I don't even know how much you do. I don't know if you do it
Yeah,
every
I do
week.
weekly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like if you did that, that might be like a really good balance. Like it gives you what you want. They always say with content, again, back to like Mr. Beast type stuff, they always say with content, it's like you do what works 80% of the time, and then 20% of the time you can do that thing that like you like to do, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's what I try to do. Like I keep giving people what they want in terms of like journalism, news, this, that, and then like I'll try a thing on like two videos. Like
Mm-hmm.
I tried yesterday and it didn't work. Neither of them even hit like one of them hit 1,000, one of them hit like 900, and I was like, ah, I'm like I shouldn't have done that, but I'm like whatever. It's just like I got to try. I got to see what happens, right?
Yeah, that's the thing that sucks is like, I do like in a video like the Andrew Tate one, 2400, and then I'm like, I'm gonna do some other news stories that I'm like also interested in, and it's like 150. And you're like, but I spend so much more time editing that one. Like, why is that one lower than the other? You know what I mean? You start like questioning stuff like that. But it is encouraging to hear you say that you enjoy the presentation or the format. The I found I don't know if
Well,
you've
it's
played
you.
around with
It's you.
yeah,
It's not
true,
the format. It's actually
true.
you. You're actually
Okay.
really good at that. Like you have a really good like you're really like what I do, like if you decided to just do exactly what I do, I think you'd blow it out of the water. Like you'd pass me in a second, like no problem. Like you're really good
React to
at it.
Rogan clips,
And yeah. Well, I mean, like right now
but do it in
I've
my
been
way. Yeah.
I've been trying to do I've been moving away from Rogan because I want
Yeah.
to see like I'm like I want to see myself get like, a million views in a month without mentioning Joe Rogan.
Sure. Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
trying that this month and it's been working. I'm like almost there. I'm like close to a million views. But yeah, man, I just think like you have the expertise of doing it. And so many times in people's lives, in my life included, the thing that we're so good at, we kind of push to the side and we say, no, no,
Mm-hmm.
it's this other thing. But in reality, it's like if you focused where your like real expertise is, it will open you up to those things that you want so badly
Yeah.
that are like
This
not
is
bad,
true. Yeah. Yeah.
so i
Yeah.
just i just see that like it's like maybe what will help you do something like that is like less editing. Like maybe if you had a format, like because for me I edit a little bit, but it's like cutting and just like
Yeah.
chunking things together, and then I put like a little boop, like a little TV bar thing in
Yeah.
between, and like that's it. But my editing's like very minimal. And then if you see me in like the corner of the screen and just flipping back and forth, like I'm just on OBS and it's just recording. So then there's no
Yeah.
editing there. It's just cutting the end, cutting the beginning, cutting the end, and that's it. So maybe if there's a process that like involves less editing, it could be something like because like you're really good at the talking part, you know?
Hmm.
You're
I've
really,
started to
really good.
use like with the advancement of AI tools, I've tried to find ways that I can incorporate AI into this process to make it even easier. And it's scary what I've been able to do with some simple AI programs. Like
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
thinking like my mind is running with like content farm channels that I can just create where it's just 100% AI releasing information. And I'm just like, there's so much like even because it for a news story for me to write one of those videos, it would typically take me like an hour to an hour and a half to go through all of the articles that I've pulled research for that topic, picking out the important pieces, maybe quotes from people, and then kind of writing my own summary basically of
Yeah.
what they're talking about. Um, I tested ChatGPT of I took all these articles and I said, write me a professional but friendly YouTube script in the first person talking about this subject matter here.
Yeah.
And it did it in like 30 seconds. It just, and I skimmed it and I was like, this is really fucking good. Like, this is really good.
Wow.
It's scary. Like, and then you combine that with a voice or a text to voice AI, and
Yeah.
you combine that with the Pepper type AI, which adds images and video to what the script says. And now
True.
you have a faceless channel if you want to, right? Like if you're somebody out there, I'm saying that's a content creator that doesn't want to put themselves forward, you can literally do that with AI. You can create, they have avatars that will talk for you. You just have to type out
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
words. Like it's endless when it comes to content creation right now.
You should do it. You should do it. You should do it. Anything that you find where you're like, this is a thing. I was just talking with somebody like a comedian today, and I was just like, like when you have an idea, it's like just do it. Like just do it, do it shitty, do it wonky, do it like it's not really formed in your head yet. Like
Yeah,
do
that's what
it
this
the
is.
imperfected way. Really?
This album here that I recorded throughout
Oh,
2020 was just me having an idea. Hey, the world's ending. What if I tried hip hop? And I just started writing songs, and I was like, I really fucking like this. I'm gonna keep doing it. And I put out a new one every single day on SoundCloud. I released
yeah.
like 20 songs. Just I made a new one every day, whether it sucked or it was good. I just created it, put it out, created it, put it out, created it, put it out, and then it resulted in an album. And I'm like,
Wow.
I feel I didn't want to play the main stage of Coachella. I'm not trying to win a Grammy. I'm not trying to be on a top 50 rapper list of all time. It was just something that brought me so much joy, and I did it. And there's like such a good feeling that completing something that you first have that idea for. Like that's what I
Mhm.
love about comedy. The idea and the inception of it, and then finishing it into a joke is there's no better feeling than that.
Yeah, if I had well, I'm just gonna let me ask first. When you do scripts for videos, like you actually write stuff out and then read it, like teleprompter, or like you
Yeah, so
just
I
memorize it, or
teleprompter. I bought a little
wow,
teleprompter. I used to have this ghetto one that I made myself out of like cardboard and a glass from a picture frame because it was the middle of the pandemic and you couldn't go anywhere. It was when they shut
yeah,
everything down. I was like, well, I need to be able to do my job from home, which is reading
yeah,
off of a teleprompter. Teleprompters are like 400 to at the time $1,200. Like they're
yeah,
crazy how
yeah,
much they range. Now I found like an affordable one, but I literally made it out of garbage and had this teleprompter and read off my phone because I like the kind of looking down the barrel and
yeah.
like giving them, and there's a remote that I have to control the speed of it and everything. So super, super easy to do.
Yeah, see, like like the way I would do stand up and the way I would do this, like I don't write anything. I kind of just look at things and then I'll kind of say it, and then I'll look at something else and I'll say it, and then I start like jogging with an idea, and then I'll just be
Mm,
like, okay, I'm just gonna turn on the camera. I'm just gonna say this part and just see what comes there, and then if more comes, I just kind of let that happen.
yeah, because you
That's
can take care of
kind of
that in post. That's a good way
yeah.
to kind of flow. But I always do an hour for these podcasts. I'm going to ask you the final question that I always
Oh,
ask
true,
all
true,
my
true.
guests. If you could make a phone call to 15-year-old Colin, give him a piece of advice based on what you know now, knowing that it won't affect your current timeline, what would you tell him?
Knowing that it won't affect my current timeline.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like it would dramatically affect my current timeline, but I'm okay with that. I would just say don't do drugs. and don't worry about being in a relationship. I'd be like, I don't want you to be in a relationship with anybody, and I don't want you to do drugs. I want you to stay away from those two things. I just want you to do school. I just want you to just work hard. Just do that.
The honeypots
You
of life that pull men from their goals and ambitions, drugs and women.
know? Yeah. I would say just stay away from those two things. But the big thing would be drugs. Like, just stay away from drugs, man, and stay away from people that do drugs. That's what I would
As he
say.
talks to the mushroom on his hand.
Yeah. Well, the mushroom helped me get sober, man. They helped me
Yeah,
get
bro,
sober.
definitely. That needs to
Yeah.
be a tool at every clinic to get people off of stuff. That
Yeah.
they call it magic mushrooms for a reason. It's fucking
Yeah.
feels like magic going through your body. Which, if you want to listen to Shroom Talk, is that still up on YouTube? I
Talking
think our episode
talking
talking
mush.
shrooms, talking
I got
mush.
that.
That's what it is.
I got a bunch of things. I got Talking Mush, that is a psychedelic podcast. There's another podcast that's up called Date Night Conspiracy that I do with my wife.
Nice.
There's one that I produced. It's called Hardy Gentlemen. That's about like men's issues. And there's another one that's about men's issues as well. That's called the Open Brother Project. I got a bunch of, and then there's the Coach Colin podcast. Like, I got a bunch of them.
Gotta check all those out. People go follow Colin. I am Coach Colin on Instagram and at Coach Colin on
Hold,
YouTube.
let me see this. This looks amazing. Keep this up. Wow.
Look
I never look at this. Wow.
at that. The channel
Jeez.
pages. Some people believe the channel pages is dead. Oh, if you're wondering what these blue numbers are too, this is views per hour for my trusty vidIQ,
Oh,
which
I got it. I got it too. I got it too.
they're gonna have to pay for that ad placement there.
Yeah.
Send it over to their creator support.
Man.
Any parting words for the people?
Um, I would definitely say when, and so for some people, YouTube, it's like, who cares about like content creation and stuff, but more about this being consistent. It was only about 2.5 months ago, a month ago, that I got monetized, and it all happened because I just decided that I was going to get consistent. So if there's something that you feel like you want to do in life and you're not sure if you should, or you're dragging your feet, just decide to get consistent at it and just do it, because you have no idea where it can take you. Like I said, I was an Uber driver. Like, I was delivering food for people just 3 months ago, and now I'm a full-time content creator. So like,
I
you
love to
can
hear
you
it,
can make
man.
it happen. You can
I
you can
love
make it
hearing that.
happen.
Make it happen, folks. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well so you don't miss another episode of the Johnny Rogers Show. But for now, I've been your host. Stay classy. You've been listening to the Johnny Rogers Show. New episodes air every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.